Hello and welcome to this Caspio training video. My name is Ned, and in today's video I'll be showing you how to create ID service authentication to allow users sign up and sign in to your password protected application using their ID service account. Up here at the top we have a Google button to connect and log in using our Google account. Down here below we have a link for users who don't wish to use their Google account to sign up with their standard registration form and log in using their email and password. The benefits of using the service ID login such as Facebook, Twitter, or in this case Google is that users can sign up much faster without having to fill out a lot of the registration fields. It improves the usability of the user registration process, and it gives the app author insight on the user's social profile and demographics. Now let's log into our Caspio account and see what steps we took to create this authentication process. Please note that in today's video, we're only going to focus on Google Authentication. Setting up regular authentication is covered in our password protection video series, and creating a standard registration form is covered in creating a web form video series. Let's take a look at our users table in the design mode. Our table has the user ID, which is an auto number. We also have first name, last name, phone number, and your regular fields that you will typically have in your registration form. We also have photo URL and gender, and a lot of these fields we're actually going to capture from Google upon logging in and registering. And we also have the Google ID for users who wish to sign up using their Google account. It's important to make sure that this field is unique and that at the bottom that this checkbox to allow blank values is checked. So if user signs up using the regular registration form instead of Google, this data cell in your table will be blank. Once your table is set up correctly, you can go to Authentications, and if you don't have an authentication set up, you can click on New to create one. We already have one created, so let's go ahead and click on Edit. You're going to get this warning message that lets you know that your authentication security level may be modified. Just make sure you click here Yes and Continue. We have opted out to go with the custom option, and we're also using Caspio and ID services to log in and register with our application. Down below we have two fields. We have the email and password. These credentials are used for anybody who wishes to register using a standard registration form and log in using their email and password. Down below here we have the Google enabled. The two important fields that need to be filled out here in order to use Google Authentication is the client ID and client service, secret number. The steps to register your application with an ID service and to get the client ID and the client secret number, in our case Google, is explained in our how-to documentation. It is possible to provide one or more ID service option to log in, such as Twitter and Facebook. However, be aware that users will have multiple profiles if they log in with multiple ID services to your application. Once you've identified this window here in Google and which ID service you wish to use, we can go to Layout now and we can choose where our Google button is going to appear. You can customize it so it goes to the left, to the right of the login screen, bottom, or in our own example, we have it at the very top. So if I navigate to our application, you'll see that my Google button appears at the top of my login screen. In the advanced settings, the important step here is the ID services unrecognized user handling. This option should be pointed to the page where I have deployed the registration form. So when somebody wants, or new user wants to register using Google, and if the system doesn't recognize them, it's going to take them to this registration form to sign up. And once you've made all of your changes inside the authentication, go ahead and save it. And now the authentication setup is complete. As long as the user has their Google ID set up in the database, they can log in with their Google ID. But how do we now get that information in the table for new users? For that, we need a registration form that captures their Google ID details. This registration form is very similar to our standard registration form, except that many fields are hidden, and instead of the form is using a Caspio connection to capture the information automatically. Note that connections and authentications are two different things. The app is protected by the authentication, and only allows known users who are listed in the user table to access the application. But Connections is used to autofill forms if you wish to collect data from Google ID services or a different ID service such as Facebook or Twitter. Now let's go inside the Connections and let's see how the connection was set up. If you don't have one, go ahead and click on New. In our example, we're going to go ahead and click on Edit. And in this case, we're using the same client ID and the same client secret number enabled through Google. Once you've enabled this and you paste both of these, you can go ahead and click on Save to save the changes. Once you make those save changes, you now can go to Data Pages. So now let's go ahead and edit and see how this connection registration form was built. I'm going to click on Edit. We're going to select Submission Form. Let's go ahead and click on Next. And what I want to do here is I want the connection to get established before the form loads, so when the user sees the form, it's already partially pre-filled. After the submission, use case is explaining the ID service connection video. Of course, in this drop-down here, we want to make sure that we use a users table that we have created. And we also want to restrict access based on the registration connection. Go ahead and click Next. Here we're going to move all the fields to the right except for the password field. Because we're logging in with Google and using the connections form, we do not actually need to create a password. Click Next. And here we're going to modify the fields. We have the first name. In my advanced settings, we're going to go ahead and enable receive value or parameter. We're going to select connection fields and we're going to select first name. And what this is doing is when the new user connects using Google and they get redirected to that registration page, this field is going to be pre-filled or auto-filled based on the information that Google provides, which allows for faster registration if the user chooses to use Google login and registration process. Same thing for last name. We can recover that or we can retrieve that information from the Google account. Same with email. We can collect that information as long as Google provides that information and as long as the user himself inside their settings does allow for different third-party applications to take their information. Address field we're not collecting, so that's going to be a standard field for them to manually fill in. City, state, zip code, and phone number. And photo URL, we do have the option to make fields hidden. We're going to collect that information from Google as well, which is their profile or avatar picture. And on my registration form or the connections form, we're not going to display that field. Same thing for gender. We're going to hide this, but we're going to collect that information on the connections form. And the Google ID is also hidden. And from our dropdown, we're going to have to select unique social login. Each member that signs up using Google will have this unique ID inside a table. When you're done, go ahead and click Finish. And this is how you set up the connections form. So now let's test out the workflow. Let's see what it looks like on our website. As you recall, we can use this link if you want to sign up using a standard registration form where you create your own email and password. And then later on, you can log in using those credentials. If I try to use my Google account, it's going to try to connect to my Google account that I have. If you don't have an account, you can sign up with Google. If you do have a Google account, you can provide your login information. And once you sign in, this is where the connection takes place. It redirects us to that registration form or the connections form, and it autofills these fields that we are collecting from Google. Notice that the gender field is hidden, but we're still collecting that information, and also the photo URL. Once you fill out the form with some random information here, we can click on Submit. And once the account is created successfully, we can go inside our table now. We can open up the table. And we can see that there is that new member that just signed up, John. And we can see the date and time is today's date and time, so we know it took place today, the registration. If I go back to my website, I can sign in with Google. That should take me directly inside my account where I can manage my listings. I'm a new user, so I don't have any listings inside my account, but if I click on Submit a New Listing, that'll let me add my listings and also manage my listings at the same time. That concludes the ID Service Authentication video tutorial. For additional videos and training material, please visit howto.caspio.com. Thank you for watching.